That heavy feeling of being constantly behind, of never having enough time or energy, is a familiar cage. We chase achievements and possessions, hoping the next one will finally bring a lasting peace that never seems to arrive. What if the freedom you are looking for is not something to be found, but something to be remembered? This is the radical promise of Advaita Vedanta, an ancient Indian wisdom tradition that cuts to the very heart of the human dilemma. It declares that you are not the limited person you take yourself to be, and that your true nature is already whole, complete, and utterly free. We will explore this life-changing truth not through dense philosophy, but through a series of captivating and profound stories. By the end of our time together, you will see your own life and mind through an entirely new lens, one that reveals the peace hidden in plain sight. We will uncover how a king could live his entire life as a beggar, and what a simple rope mistaken for a snake can teach us about reality itself. What is the one assumption about yourself you have never thought to question? A king once lived his entire life as a beggar. Separated from his kingdom at birth, he was raised in a small village with no knowledge of his true heritage. He spent his days with a worn-out bowl, seeking scraps of food, believing his identity was defined by his poverty and his pleading. He felt every pang of hunger, every moment of shame, and every limitation of his circumstance as an unchangeable reality. This profound story echoes a central truth of Advaita Vedanta. We are like that king, living a life of imagined scarcity, while our true inheritance remains untouched and waiting. We have simply forgotten who we are. Our fundamental error is a case of mistaken identity. We have taken ourselves to be the body that ages, the mind that worries, and the personal history that seems to define us. This limited self, which the tradition calls the jiva, feels separate, vulnerable, and constantly in need. It is the beggar with the bowl, yet our true nature, our fundamental consciousness, is what the sages call Brahman. This is not a distant God, but the very source and substance of all existence, limitless, ever free and whole. You are that. The peace you seek, the freedom you long for, is not something to be built or acquired. It is what you already are right now, underneath the layers of conditioning and forgetfulness. The bondage is an illusion, a story you have believed for so long it feels utterly real. Just as the beggar king's suffering was real to him, our anxieties and feelings of lack are painfully real to us, but they are based on a single, incorrect assumption about our identity. What would happen if the beggar were to receive the news of his kingship? Would he need to change who he is? No, he would simply have to correct his misunderstanding. His entire reality would shift in an instant, not because his circumstances changed, but because his self-knowledge did. The bowl would drop from his hands not as an act of rejection, but as a natural outcome of realizing his abundance. So what is the news, the teaching that can shatter our own illusion? And how can something as simple as a rope lying on the ground reveal the very mechanics of our perceived reality? A group of 10 men once journeyed together and came to a wide, rushing river they needed to cross. They forged their way through the turbulent waters, helping one another, and finally stumbled, exhausted, onto the opposite bank. Catching their breath, their leader decided to count everyone to ensure all had made it safely. He pointed and counted each of his companions one by one, but he only counted 9. Alarmed, each man in turn took it upon himself to count the group, and every single time the result was the same. Each man in his counting forgot to include himself. Panic set in. They were certain one of their brothers had been lost to the river. They began a frantic search along the bank, looking under bushes and calling out for their missing friend, their hearts filled with grief and desperation for the one they believed was gone. A wise traveler, observing their distress, approached them. He understood their error immediately. He did not join the search or look for another person. Instead, he simply said to the man who had counted first, "You are the 10th man." The man was stunned for a moment, and then he looked at his own hands, his own body, and the truth dawned upon him. He had been searching for the one who was and had always been the searcher himself. This beautiful story captures the very essence of the spiritual search. We are all like those 10 men. We feel a profound sense that something is missing, that a part of us is lost. We call this lack enlightenment, peace, or lasting happiness, and we embark on a desperate, lifelong search to find it. We read books, attend seminars, chase experiences, and seek gurus, all in an attempt to find this missing 10th person. We look everywhere except in the one place we never think to look because we are the ones doing the looking. The seeker is what is being sought. The peace you long for is not an object to be found out in the world. It is the very nature of the one who is looking for it. Your true self, what the tradition calls the Atman, is not a distant goal. It is the conscious presence reading these words, the awareness behind your thoughts, the silent witness to all your experiences. You cannot find it as an object because you are it. The frantic search itself, based on the mistaken belief that you are incomplete, is what perpetuates the feeling of lack. Freedom, then, is not an acquisition, it is a recognition. It is the profound, simple, and shocking realization that what you have been seeking all your life, you already are. The beggar does not become the king, he remembers he is the king. The 10th man does not find a new person, he recognizes he was the missing one all along. The search ends not with a discovery, but with the collapse of the seeker. This shift is not an addition of something new to you, but a falling away of the ignorance that made you feel separate and small in the first place. So what is the nature of this ignorance that is so powerful it can make a king live as a beggar, or 10 men mourn for one who was never lost? That ignorance, that fundamental misperception, has a name in this tradition. It is called Maya, and it is the very fabric of the illusion that makes a rope appear as a snake. Picture a traveler walking home along a dusty path as dusk begins to fall. The light is dim, the shadows are long. Up ahead, he sees something coiled on the path. His heart instantly leaps into his throat. He sees a snake, its head raised, ready to strike. A surge of pure, undiluted fear courses through his body. His muscles tense, his breath catches. The fear is 100% real. He might freeze in his tracks, he might turn and run, or he might even pick up a stone to defend himself. All of these reactions are based on the absolute certainty that a deadly snake is right in front of him. But then a friend arrives with a lantern. As the light draws closer, illuminating the path, the traveler's perception shifts in an instant. The coiled form does not slither away, it remains, but it is utterly transformed. It was never a snake. It was only a coiled rope left behind by some passerby. The fear vanishes as if it were never there. He might even laugh at himself, a little embarrassed, but what happened? The rope did not become a rope in that moment. It had always been a rope. The only thing that changed was his understanding, his knowledge of what was actually there. This is the precise, powerful analogy for our entire human experience. The non-dual reality, the single, unified consciousness that is Brahman, is the rope. It is what is always and ever present, the world of separate objects, of threats and desires, of problems to be solved and things to be gained, that is the snake. This world of names and forms is a superimposition upon the real. We see the snake of a difficult person, a financial worry, a personal failing, or a future fear. And we react with genuine anxiety, anger, or sorrow. The emotions are real, just as the traveler's fear was real, but they are based on a misperception, a misreading of reality itself. We are seeing the world in the twilight of our own conditioning and beliefs. The snake of a separate, fragile self navigating a dangerous world is projected onto the rope of the one undivided reality. Liberation, or moksha, is not a journey to a new place. It is the bringing of the light of knowledge to the misperception. It is the clear, direct seeing of the rope. When this dawns, the snake of your problems, your lack, and your separate self does not go anywhere. It is seen for what it always was, an appearance, a play of form upon the formless. The peace and freedom you are seeking do not get created. They are revealed as the natural state that was there all along, once the illusory snake of suffering is understood. You are left not with a new reality, but with the truth of the only reality that ever was. So if the rope is what remains, what does that mean for the world we live in, with all its beauty and its pain? Is the snake simply denied, or does it reveal a deeper, more astonishing secret about existence itself? There is another kind of cage, one built not from poverty but from a story of specialness. A young man once became convinced he was a chosen one, destined to save his village from a prophesied calamity. He carried this identity like a heavy crown. Every sunrise brought not peace, but a renewed sense of immense responsibility. He trained relentlessly, studied ancient texts, and scrutinized every event for a sign that his great moment was near. His life became a single, sustained note of anxiety, a constant striving to live up to the grand narrative he believed was his alone. He felt separate from everyone else, set apart by his destiny, and this separation was a profound and lonely burden. He was the hero of his own story, and he was utterly exhausted by it. This is the work of the ego, what the tradition calls ahamkara. It is not a monster or a flaw, but a simple, mechanical process of identification. It is the I thought, the mental faculty that gathers up a collection of memories, beliefs, desires, and fears, and then proclaims, "This is me, this is my story. I am the chosen one, I am the failure, I am the one who is wronged." Each of these is a costume the ego wears, a role it performs. The man believed he was the character of the chosen hero. But what he truly was the awareness watching the entire play. His realization did not come in a blaze of glory, but in a moment of quiet exhaustion. Sitting by a river, utterly spent from his efforts, he watched a leaf float by on the current. In that simple, wordless moment, the constant internal narration about his special destiny just stopped. There was no grand revelation, only a sudden, spacious silence. He was still there, but the one who was chosen, the one who had to strive and suffer, was gone. What remained was simply the seeing of the leaf, the hearing of the water, the feeling of the breeze. The central character of his life's drama had vanished from the stage, and yet the experience of life was richer and more immediate than ever before. He saw that the ego was never an entity but an activity, a story being told, and when the telling ceased, what was left was not nothingness but everything. It was the vast, impersonal consciousness in which the entire universe, including the story of a chosen one, arises and subsides. Freedom is this falling away of the false center. You are not the thought "I am anxious," you are the awareness that knows the thought. You are not the story "I am a success or a failure," you are the silent space in which the story is read. This is not a denial of your unique personality or your life's events. The man still had a name, a history, and a village, but these were no longer felt as a solid, separate self. They were seen as fleeting patterns dancing on the surface of a deep, still ocean. The ocean is not defined by the waves, it is the substance of the waves. When you stop identifying with the wave, you realize you are the entire ocean. So what is left when the story of me dissolves? It is a peace that does not depend on being special or ordinary, on success or failure. It is the simple, shocking, and utterly ordinary recognition that you are the timeless awareness in which all stories, including this one, are gracefully unfolding. That profound peace is the dreamer waking up. Think of the most vivid dream you have ever had. In that dream, you are a distinct person moving through a complete and convincing world. You interact with other people, you feel joy and fear, you face challenges that seem absolutely real. A tiger chases you, and your dream heart pounds with authentic terror. You find a treasure, and your dream mind soars with genuine elation. Every sight, sound, and sensation is experienced as undeniably real, but then you wake up. In the single moment of awakening, the entire world of the dream, with all its characters, dramas, and emotions, collapses. Where did the tiger go? Where is the treasure? They vanish not because they were destroyed, but because they are recognized for what they always were, a play of light and form within your own consciousness. The dream was real to the dream character, but unreal to the one who woke up. Advaita Vedanta presents a startling proposition. What you call your waking life is, in a very real sense, another kind of dream. You are the dreamer of this entire universe of experience. The world of separate objects, the people you love and argue with, the body you inhabit, and the mind that thinks its thoughts. All of it is a magnificent, intricate projection arising within a single, universal consciousness. This is the ultimate meaning of the rope and the snake. The snake of a separate world is the dream. The rope of non-dual awareness is the dreamer. You are not the character in the dream struggling with its plot. You are the awareness in which the entire story is unfolding. The profound freedom this understanding brings is the freedom of waking up while the dream is still playing out. The problems of the dream character, the losses, the anxieties, the desperate searches do not disappear, but they lose their power to define you. You see them as part of the dream's narrative, not as the ultimate truth of who you are. When you are fully identified as the character, a financial setback feels like the end of the world. From the perspective of the awakened dreamer, it is a challenging scene in a much larger story. The emotion may still be felt, but it no longer carries the weight of absolute reality. It is like the residual thrill after a thrilling movie. You feel it, but you know it is not actually happening to you. This is not a call to become passive or detached from life. On the contrary, it allows you to engage with the dream more fully, more compassionately, and with far less personal suffering. You can play your roles, the parent, the friend, the worker, with grace and dedication, but without the crushing belief that your essential self is at stake in every outcome. The dream character's struggles are real to the character, but you are no longer exclusively identified with that character. You are the vast, silent space of knowing in which the character appears. And just as the dream world depends entirely on the dreamer for its existence, this waking dream depends entirely on the one consciousness that you are. The world is not an illusion in the sense of being unimportant or fake. Its reality is relative, dependent on the perceiver, just like the reality of a dream. Its ultimate substance, however, is nothing other than consciousness itself. So the next time you feel overwhelmed by the drama of your life, you can pause and ask a simple, revolutionary question. Who is the one watching this? The answer is not a thought. It is the silent, boundless presence that gives reality to the question itself. The dreamer and the dream are not two different things. A sincere seeker, troubled by this paradox, once approached a revered guru. For years, he sat at the teacher's feet, studying scriptures and performing rituals, yet a fundamental unease remained. One day, gathering all his courage, he asked the question that burned in his heart, "Who am I?" The guru looked at him, not with the eyes of a scholar, but with a gaze that seemed to see through the very person asking. He did not give a philosophical answer. He simply said, "Find out who is asking." The disciple was confused. He had expected a profound teaching, a secret mantra. Instead, he was sent back to the source of the question itself. He returned to his small hut and began the work of self-inquiry, or atma-vichara. He would sit for hours, turning his attention inward. A thought would arise, "I am unworthy." Instead of following the thought, he would ask, "To whom does this thought come?" The answer would arise, "To me," and then he would ask, "Who am I?" He did this with every sensation, every emotion, every memory that surfaced. "I am sad. Who is sad? I am the one who is sad, but who is this I?" It was like trying to find a black cat in a dark room by calling out its name. The process was frustrating. His mind would supply old answers. I am the body, but the body changes and the sense of I remains. I am the mind, but thoughts come and go, and the watcher of the thoughts persists. He was peeling an onion with an infinite number of layers, each one promising to be the core, only to reveal another layer beneath. He returned to the guru again and again, each time with the same desperate question. Who am I? And each time the guru would point him back beyond the answers, beyond the questions, to the very source of awareness. The guru's role was not to build a new concept in the disciple's mind, but to shatter every concept he already had. He was not a giver of information, but a pointer to the obvious. He was like a finger pointing at the moon, his only job to direct the disciples' gaze away from the finger and toward the luminous reality itself. One evening, as the disciple sat in his hut, the final layer fell away without any effort. He was not trying to achieve anything. He was simply being, with the question hanging in the air like a silent echo. Who am I? And in that moment there was no answer, there was only the answer. The mental search, the seeker himself, simply collapsed. There was no flash of light, no heavenly choir. There was only a profound, simple, and shocking recognition. The I that he had been searching for was not an object, it was the subject itself, the timeless awareness in which the entire search had been taking place. He saw that the guru had never possessed something the disciple lacked. The guru was merely a clear mirror, reflecting back the disciple's own true nature, free from the distortions of thought. The knowledge that dawned was not intellectual. It was not a new belief or a different philosophy. It was a direct seeing, as immediate and non-conceptual as the taste of water. You do not think about the taste of water, you experience it. In the same way, he directly knew himself as the formless consciousness that gives rise to the forms of the body and the mind. This is the transmission of direct knowledge. It is the moment when the pointer is finally understood, and the seeker realizes he is what was being pointed at all along. The question, who am I, is not meant to be answered with words, but to be used as a tool to dissolve the questioner. When the questioner dissolves, what remains is your original, unconditioned self, already and eternally free. So what happens to the world when this recognition dawns? Does the dream character simply vanish, or does it begin to live in a radically new way? A river begins its long journey high in the mountains, a single stream of fresh, distinct water. It carves its own path through stone, flows past forests and fields, and for its entire existence, it knows itself only as this separate, flowing entity. It battles against its banks, fears the droughts that may diminish it, and dreads the cliffs that threaten to shatter it. Most of all, it fears its own end, the moment it will pour into the vast, unknown sea and cease to be. This river is the jiva, the individual soul. Its journey through the landscape, with all its twists and turns, its periods of calm and turbulence, is samsara, the endless cycle of birth and death. Each lifetime is a different stretch of the river, a new set of banks and obstacles, but the flowing water, the sense of a separate self, continues. What drives this endless journey? It is the river's own ignorance of its true nature. It believes its identity is defined by its particular path, its unique currents, and the things it carries with it. It does not realize that its very substance, the water itself, is not separate from the great ocean towards which it flows. The river's fear of the ocean is the jiva's fear of liberation. It mistakenly believes that merging means annihilation, the destruction of its precious individuality, but the moment finally arrives, the river pours into the sea. In that instant of merging, a profound and shocking realization dawns. It does not cease to exist. Instead, it discovers that its deepest fear was based on a complete misunderstanding. It was never a separate river at all. It was always and only an expression of the ocean itself, temporarily taking the form of a river. The river's journey ends not in extinction, but in the glorious recognition of its own infinite true nature. It was the ocean all along. This is enlightenment, the final end of samsara. The jiva, the individual soul, awakens to its identity as Brahman, the absolute reality. The sense of being a limited, fragile self navigating a dangerous world simply dissolves because it was never true in the first place. The journey was an illusion of separation, sustained only by the belief in that separation. What happens to the river's water when it joins the ocean? It does not retain a separate identity as former river water. It becomes the ocean fully and completely. In the same way, when the jiva realizes its oneness with Brahman, the sense of a small, personal self is gone. Yet, this does not mean the individual personality is brutally erased. A beautiful paradox emerges. The form of the individual life may continue, just as the ocean has waves and currents. But the wave now knows it is not a separate entity battling other waves. It is the ocean itself, temporarily appearing as a wave. The person continues to live, to act, to love, but without the core belief in being a separate center of the universe. The burdens of the journey, the fears of the river are over. The peace that remains is not a personal achievement, but the natural state of the ocean, deep, boundless, and ever-present. The search that began with a feeling of lack ends with the realization of your own limitless fullness. So what does life look like when lived from this unshakable knowing, not as a river but as the entire sea? The river has merged with the ocean, yet the wave of an individual life continues to dance upon the shore. So how does one actually live from this understanding? If I am already free, what happens to my job, my relationships, my daily struggles? The answer is found in the beautiful and paradoxical state of the Jivanmukta, one who is liberated while still living in a body. This is not a distant mythical ideal. We can see it in the life of a sage like Ramana Maharshi. He lived in a small ashram in South India, performing ordinary tasks. People would come to him with their most profound problems, their heartaches, and their desperate questions. He would listen with immense compassion, his presence radiating a palpable stillness. Yet, if you observed him closely, you would notice something astonishing. There was no sense of a personal doer behind his actions. When he spoke, it was not a persona offering advice, it was wisdom flowing spontaneously from the silent self. When he was silent, his peace was not a personal achievement he was guarding, it was the natural state of what he was. A story is told that a scorpion once stung Ramana Maharshi on the foot. His leg swelled up and the pain was visibly intense. A devotee, distressed, asked him why he didn't simply brush the scorpion away to avoid being stung. Ramana Maharshi's reply was simple and profound. He said, "The scorpion does not know any better. It is its nature to sting. It is my nature to be. Why should I disturb its nature?" This is not a calculated philosophy of non-violence. It is the spontaneous expression of a being who no longer sees a separate self to protect. The body felt pain, the mind registered the sensation, but the core identity, the I that could feel personally victimized or angry, was absent. The action of bearing the sting arose not from a story of being a spiritual person, but from the utter stillness of being itself. This is how life unfolds for one who knows their true nature. Actions continue, but the sense of being the personal doer, the author of the action, falls away. You still go to work, you still cook meals, you still engage in conversations. But the frantic, psychological seeking has ended. You are no longer doing these things to become happy, to prove your worth, or to fill an inner void. The search is over because the seeker has been recognized as an illusion. Life becomes a flow of spontaneous, selfless action. It is like a leaf carried by a river. The leaf moves, it interacts with the current and the banks, but it does not believe it is doing the swimming. From the outside, a Jivanmukta may look incredibly active, even busy. But inside, there is an unshakable inner stillness. Challenges and difficulties still arise in the movie of life, but they are met with a profound equanimity. A financial loss, a personal conflict, a physical illness, these are all seen as appearances, like clouds passing through the vast, unchanging sky of the self. The sky is not damaged by a storm, and the self is not diminished by any life event. The emotion may be felt, the situation may require a response, but there is no longer the secondary layer of suffering, the story of how this should not be happening to me. The wave still rises and falls, but it knows it is the ocean. So the question, how do I live my life, is itself revealed as the final whisper of the ego. You do not live your life, life lives through you, and when the false sense of a separate manager dissolves, what remains is a life of incredible simplicity, clarity, and compassion, not because you are trying to be good, but because it is the natural expression of the freedom you have always been. The final and most important story is the one you are telling yourself right now. Every tale we have explored, from the beggar king to the dreamer waking up, points to a single, liberating truth. You are not the limited person you believe yourself to be. Your true nature is pure, limitless consciousness itself, the silent awareness behind all thought, the vast ocean expressing itself as a single, temporary wave. Freedom is not a distant goal to be achieved through years of struggle. It is your birthright, the very ground of your being, waiting only to be recognized. This recognition is not about adding anything to who you are. It is about subtracting everything you are not. It is the simple, profound act of seeing through the illusion of a separate self. The king remembered his kingdom. The 10th man discovered he was the one he sought. The dreamer woke up to find he was the source of the dream. Each story is a different door leading to the same room, the room of your own heart. So what is the one assumption about yourself you have never thought to question? The assumption that you are the thinker of your thoughts and the feeler of your feelings, rather than the spacious awareness in which they all arise and pass away. I invite you to carry these stories with you. Let them work in the quiet moments. When you feel stress, lack, or fear, remember the rope and the snake. When you feel lost, recall the 10th man. This is not a call to adopt a new belief system, but to begin your own gentle, persistent inquiry. Ask yourself, who am I beneath the name, the job, the history, the worries? Do not rush for an answer from the mind. Let the question sink in, pointing you back again and again to the one who is asking. The peace you seek is not waiting for you at the end of a long journey. It is the very space through which you are walking. It is here now, in the simple noticing of your own presence. The freedom you have been chasing is already and always here, shining as the consciousness reading these words. If this resonates with you, if a single story sparked a moment of clarity or a quiet question, I would love to hear about it in the comments below. Share your insights, your wonder, your own discoveries. And if you are ready for more wisdom that transforms, subscribe to continue this journey of awakening together.